Hi Sherry, you wanted to know if there was anything I would have added to the original Vampire Academy series after hearing the reactions. And actually, there really isn't that much. The series panned out the way I wanted it to. I had it planned from the very beginning, what was going to happen in each book and how it would eventually end. I think if anything that I could have changed, I would have made it more obvious in Last Sacrifice that Bloodlines was coming, because there were certain questions I left purposely hanging in Last Sacrifice to sort of feed into the next series. And a lot of people who didn't realize there was another series coming just thought I had sort of abandoned them at the end, which I would never do in a book. So that's probably the only thing, just to sort of give people a heads up on that there was more to come. Hey Alice, so I hear you want to know about the theories behind me killing off characters, whether it's planned or if I decide certain characters' times have just come. And it really is planned. I do plan my series out from the beginning. I outline how I want each book to end. And, you know, death, as terrible as it is for some characters, it just kind of needs to happen to move the book along, to make other characters grow, because they certainly have reactions when those they care about die. So most of it is planned. I've never really had a point where I'm just like, oh, I'm tired of them, I'm going to get rid of them right now. There is a reason, and that's definitely true for those who have died, particularly in the second book, which I understand you're interested in. That there was all a plan behind that, and it had a greater purpose, even though it turned out to be kind of a sad one. Hi Belinda, you would like to know if there's any character in the Vampire Academy series I'd like to take over or be for a day. And I wish I could give you a really exciting answer, but the truth is I'm not really sure I would want to be any of them. They do not have easy lives, and that's my fault because I make them go through some pretty terrible things. But that's what makes for good writing. I think if they all had really easy, joyous lives, they wouldn't be as much fun to read about. So I have to keep making them do these kind of bad things. So there probably isn't anyone I would like to be. It would be kind of nice to throw a punch like Rose can, I suppose, because if I tried it now, I'd probably break my hand. But otherwise, I'm content to leave them where they are and me where I am. Hey Brett, so you were asking me about what I would do if I returned Strigoi, and you gave me a few interesting options, such as if I'd go on a killing spree or if I'd kill myself. And the truth is, you know, as we've learned about Strigoi, a lot of it isn't even by choice. You can't necessarily decide what you want to do. They don't feel remorse when they're turned. So if I was turned, I probably wouldn't feel badly enough about it to kill myself. I would probably fall into the Strigoi pattern and do the things that Strigoi like to do, which is come out at night and kill innocents and feed off of them. And as terrible as that is, and certainly something I wouldn't want to do now, you know, it probably wouldn't even be an option. It would just be normal life, and I would just kind of go with it. Hello, Chantal. So you would like to know if Rose and Dimitri will get married. I think a lot of people would like to know that as well. I'm not a big spoiler person, not someone who gives away tidbits about future books or other series, so I can't answer that question for you. I can tell you that if it is something that happens, it would probably be a ways down the road. We last left Rose at 18, and she's still feisty enough, even though she knows Dimitri is the one she wants to be with, and there's no question about that. I think she might chafe a little bit at the idea of getting married quite yet. She'd probably at least want a two in front of her age before that happens. So, you know, if it does happen, it's probably going to be Dimitri pushing it more, ready to settle down, while Rose kind of fights and keeps up her rebellious streak for a while. But who knows? Maybe someday. Hello, Brittany. You were asking if there was any book in the Vampire Academy series I kind of wish I could go back and change now that the original series is finished. And I'm actually pretty happy with how they all turned out. I had a plan when I set out to write this series, and most everything panned out the way I had hoped it would. I guess if there's anything I wish I could do, I think this is probably the world-weary cry of all authors everywhere, is we always wish we just had more time. It's not so much that I wish, oh, I could go back and change this plot or save this person or kill this person. It's just with every book I write, I never feel it's good enough. I never feel there's enough time. I wish I could go make it even more perfect. And so in some magical world where time wasn't an element, it would be great to just spend ages and ages making all of these wonderful. But, you know, I probably would never ever finish a book if that was the case. At some point, you just got to call it closed and keep on moving. So keeping that in mind, I'm very happy with how it all turned out. Hey Stacy, so I'm here to talk to you about any characters I may or may not have hated. And actually there are very few characters I've really truly hated. Even the bad ones who do awful things to other characters, you know, they're not nice people and they're not people I'd want to hang out with, but I don't really hate them as their creator and for their part in the story, because it's necessary for the plot, it's necessary for things that happen in other parts of the story. So even though they do bad things, you know, I can kind of roll with that. I suppose the only things that maybe I hate are just certain subplots that perhaps characters are involved in that I just start to get tired and bored of. And I just hate writing about that because I might be ready to move on to something else. But even that is rare. It's the nice part about my job is that I love most of what I do. So even the bad ones, I'm still close to them. Hey Darcy, you wanted to know about the titles in the Vampire Academy series and if there had been others and how that process goes. And actually the first book in Vampire Academy, when I first sold it to Razorbill in the US, it was called Kissed by Shadows. And they decided that we needed something perhaps a little shorter, a little more, I hate to say memorable, but that's kind of what it is, just something with more impact. And so that was where Vampire Academy came from after a very long process of brainstorming other titles. And throughout the whole series, we've had kind of a similar thing, my editors and I. We toss back title suggestions back and forth, trying to find something that fits. So most of the books have gone through a few different variations. And I think it's kind of neat, though, that the third book ended up being called Shadowkiss, which turned out to be kind of a play off my original title for the series. So I didn't entirely lose it. I just had to kind of postpone it. Hi Ashley, so you would like to know if anyone has contacted me about getting in touch with the vampire world. And not so much that, however, I do get a lot of people asking if I believe in vampires, and usually those are people who tell me that they also believe in vampires, and some of them have personal experiences with them. But no one has asked me to set anything up, for which I'm grateful, because I'm not really sure how I could help them out. And much to the disappointment of some of these who tell me they believe in vampires, I really don't in the real world. I can kind of believe some people have vampiric personalities, the kind of people you're around and you talk to them for a while and you just feel exhausted, like they've drained you afterwards. But that's the closest I think I've ever come. The blood-sucking, night-loving kind, just not seeing it. Hi Carrie, so you would like to know about how the Vampire Academy series got started and what inspired me. The Vampire Academy series kind of came about after I decided I wanted to try to write something for young adults. I had written for adults before, and after being a teacher and working with teenagers, I thought it would be kind of neat to try something different. So I had that age group in mind when I set out. And my adult series are about demons and fairies. And when I decided to do something for teens, I was kind of faced with the question, well, what creature haven't I done? I've done all these others. What's left? Oh, I haven't tried vampires. Nobody's doing that. little knowing that in the next year, vampires would just kind of explode on the scene everywhere. So I'm kind of glad I didn't know about that, because I probably wouldn't have written the Vampire Academy series had I known what a phenomenon vampires were going to become. And then from there, it was just kind of deciding my background. I found these Romanian myths about the different races of vampires. I built a world around them, and also decided on my core love story, which is one I'd always wanted to tell, about a girl in love with her older instructor. And then, just like with any writing process, you start to merge all these little factors together and create a book, and that was how the series came around.